Let us go to the callers then. In Houston, Texas. Peter, you're on the Savage Nation. What's on your mind?
Yes, hi, Doctor. Friends and I are having a discussion. I'd like to hear your opinion about it. It's Shakespeare. I know you're a lover of language. Opinion would mean a lot. Shakespeare, thine own self be true. A lot of people take that to mean that don't fool yourself. And a couple of us are also on the other side saying that actually what it means is not to... is to that sometimes your own counsel and your own opinion is your best opinion. To thine own self. I would like to hear your opinion.
To thine own self be true. Well, you're asking me what I think it means? I think it's pretty self-evident what that means, which is no matter what people are saying to you, if you know that it's not right for you or not the truth, to thine own self be true. Listen to your own self. Now, does that mean, see, here's an interesting thing. An ultra-liberal would take that to mean it's licensed to do anything you want. But the question is, what is your true self? You can analyze that, meaning to thine own self. What is your own self? When I was younger trying to understand what self was, I saw a series of boxes within boxes within boxes. Where is the self? Keep peeling away the onion skin, and what do you find at the center? And at a certain point, if you're an atheist, you find nothing at the center, and you get very frightened. It's only by finding God or refinding God, because God originally is in all of us, that you find where your self lies. And once you find God, there are a set of rules, and then you have a self. And then you have a self to be true too. But without a core, without a self, you can lead to total anarchy. You can wind up doing anything with that so-called concept of self. I don't know if this is an answer, Peter. It was a little roundabout. Does it help in any way?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I know the phone's breaking up. That was not a bad soliloquy I just gave. I think the old bard would be proud of me. But remember what I just said. I think that should be captured. That's a very nice philosophical starting point for you to understand what that means. To thine own self be true. Does that mean follow any impulse you have? Why, that can't be what to thine own self be true means. You have an impulse to set a cat on fire. Is that yourself? Or is that some demonic impulse you have? Is that some out-of-control, repressed impulse? And what you'll wind up with is, what they're doing in Menklor, having sex with a horse. Is that your own self? Or is that an evil impulse that was somehow instilled into a person through a series of degradations of the soul? And first the loss of God, and then the soul implodes worse than Chernobyl. And into that vacuum enters the devil, if you want to put it in medieval theological terms. You want to put it in current psychological terms, you need to have a core self in order to be true to it. Well, what is that core self? Where does it come from? How do you build a self? Isn't education about building a child's self? Think about this for a minute. I don't want to get into this too much, but I'll do it for another minute. When you have a child, you really don't know much about life, as much about life as you should know till you raise a child. I got to tell you that right now. As intelligent, as kind, as brilliant as you might be, until you have seen a child born of your own, and until you have raised that child through thick and through thin, from dirty diapers to the diploma and beyond, day in and day out, worrying about their safety and their sanity, you don't really have a full understanding of what it is to be a full human. That's how I see it. And that's the way nature intended it to be. That doesn't mean there aren't brilliant, wonderful people who don't have children. Don't get me wrong. But there is another layer of difference between that and being a parent and sticking with the child. Anyone could be a parent. A dog can be a parent. Many men today are like dogs. They think because they impregnated a woman, they're a father. That doesn't make you a father, impregnating a woman. You know better than a dog. A father sticks with the child even if he doesn't want to. That's a father. That's a husband. That's the meaning of a husband. Anybody can run away and find another person to engage in that activity with. But a father sticks around. But anyway, I don't want to go there. So now, how do you raise a child? What are you trying to do with a child? You're trying to teach him right from wrong? Of course you are. So where do you begin? You let him watch pornography? You let him smoke a joint? Well, of course not. Even a liberal would say, I'm not going to let my child smoke a joint when he's young. I'm not going to let a child watch pornography. Why? Because those are evil influences. What are they going to do to him? They're going to lead him astray. They're going to poison his mind. They're going to weaken his neurological system. So you feed him the good food. You give him the right water. And also you got to give him the right education. And that means watch out what influences your child. Now you find out that a liberal who, as a child, who reaches a certain age becomes somewhat less liberal and somewhat more conservative. The old joke was, what do you call a liberal with 2 children? The answer is a Republican. Or you want to go a step further, what do you call a liberal with 4 children? I can even answer that one. Well, the old one was, there's a million different ways to put it. But until you have a child that you're raising, you don't really know the difference between liberalism and conservatism. It all comes down to the next generation and living for the next generation. See, that's the ultimate reason for living, is not for yourself. It's for the next generations, to give life. It's like the farmer sacrifices to raise the crop. He sacrifices by getting up in the morning. He sacrifices by working in the cold and working in the rain and working even in the winter. And then he sees the product of his labor in the form of the fruit or in the form of the wheat, which is, of course, the fruit of the grass. That's the product of his labor. He lived for his child, the crop. And that's the purpose of a human being's life. Now, of course, you can say, well, writing or painting or sculpting or creating is also a product of a life, and it is. But they're not mutually exclusive. You can raise children and write a book. You can raise children and do a radio show. You can do numerous things to raise children. But until you've had the fulfillment of seeing a child raised up, I don't think you really understand what it's all about, nor can you really understand it's so important to support family values.